Hello and welcome to a new video here on my channel. I hope you like part 5 of the story The Curse of Bloodlust, and then let's start right with the story. Let's go.
As Rune and Gaius continued talking, time passed and the food on the table slowly disappeared. To Rune's pleasant surprise, her stomach now truly felt full, not the kind of fullness that came from drinking blood, which nourished her through its fluid essence. This was different. It wasn't the vampiric feeling of absorbing lifeblood, the vital force her body required, but rather the genuine, complete satisfaction she remembered from her days as a human. All because the food had magical properties. Their conversation drifted naturally from one topic to the next. So let me get this straight, Rune said, raising an eyebrow while biting into a fruit that resembled a raspberry, though it was composed of many tiny, multicolored berry-like globes. With each bite, the juices burst in her mouth, sizzling slightly, like the tingling sensation she remembered from a popsicle she once had as a child. You fell in love with me because your parents always wanted you to date noble, pure-hearted girls. They kept trying to set you up, but you weren't interested in sweet, innocent types. At first, you befriended me just to get on their nerves, but then you actually fell for me because I'm not perfect and I don't hide it. Yeah, you nailed it, Rune, Gaius admitted. It started as part of my rebellious phase. I wanted to annoy my parents by dating someone who looked like a troublemaker, and then, somehow, it became real. He realized he had to be honest and direct about his feelings, because otherwise, the stubborn girl who might become his girlfriend would never get it. His heart beat faster with nervousness, unsure how she'd react. I'm happy for you, Rune replied, but to be honest, I don't know how I feel about you. You've always been trustworthy, and I do like you, but I'm still unsure of my feelings. Maybe it could turn into something real. I just hope I don't disappoint you. She paused, glancing around the room, too lazy at the moment to read through all the books on magic and its fundamentals. It struck her that being a vampire hadn't granted her better memory. The ability inherited from Count Dracula, the one who turned her, protected her mind from mental manipulation, but it didn't shield her from natural processes like forgetting. Her memory still worked more or less like a human's, though her brain wouldn't age or decay over the coming centuries. Anyway, I have a few more questions, not related to that topic. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about this world, Gaius said. My first question is, why does magic make people live longer? You said earlier that we still have enough time to figure out a way for you to not live as long as I do. Yes, that's true, Gaius replied. The more magic someone has, the longer they tend to live. The exact explanation is complicated, but essentially, using magic keeps the body young and slows the natural aging process. No matter the type of magic, using it seems to enhance a person's overall health. A human who understands their innate magic and uses it regularly throughout their life can live up to 30 years longer than someone who doesn't. Unfortunately, most magical beings don't even know how to access their innate magic. It seems completely random when and how it awakens. Gaius immediately noticed something was off with Rune as she fell deep into thought. So innate magic is random, but once it awakens, you can use it. Interesting. I didn't expect that. I think I might have a theory about it, but we can talk about that another time, Rune said. Gaius suddenly sensed she wanted to say something but was hesitating. He figured it would be wise to reassure her again how unlikely it was that anyone could eavesdrop on them here. You don't need to worry about being overheard here, he said. I might not have explained it clearly earlier, but there's a soundproof barrier around us. Besides the headmaster, who created the spell and has the authority to bypass it, but no reason to spy on students, and maybe someone extremely talented or with a rare innate magic for eavesdropping, which is astronomically unlikely. There's no real way to listen in without us noticing. In a place like this, where the air is filled with magical auras from various mythical beings, surveillance spells just don't work. It's like all the surrounding magic acts as interference, blocking out any spying attempts. So actually, this is one of the safest places to talk about important things. Leaving to find a quieter, or a less spot would actually be riskier. If you want to feel even more secure, we could cast our own barrier and head into the forest where magical creatures roam. That would make eavesdropping even more impossible. Plus, if we set the protective spell ourselves, no one but us would have the authority to tamper with it. Do you understand what I mean by authority? The one who casts a spell can control it however they like. I also want you to understand this. While magic sometimes seems alive, spells themselves are static. Nothing about a spell will change unless the caster modifies it. Magic doesn't adapt on its own.
Wow, I had no idea magic produced so many different effects, Rune admitted. Seeing Gaius watching her, she rolled her eyes and confessed she simply hadn't had time to dive into how magic actually works. I've been pretty busy lately, trying to process the fact that I'll be a vampire forever. There's no way to reverse it and become human again. On top of that, I needed to learn how to wield Dracula's legacy, how the life of a vampire functions. I've met dozens of people with every kind of power imaginable. Everyone wanted to test my personality. Between that and all the mess from the past 2 or 3 months, I barely had a moment to study the basics of the mythological world. Sure, I knew magic was fundamental, and that there are different types: phenomenon magic, innate magic, and learned magic. But now that I think about it, learned magic is often called magical disciplines, or something like that. And I'm not even sure what the other types are called. You could call innate magic, imprinted magic, or just superpowers, since they function in the same straightforward way. They simply do what they do. Gaius continued to study her thoughtfully, sensing she was holding back even more than what she'd already shared. When he asked if she understood the barrier and anti-eavesdropping spell, she nodded. I'm not as slow as you think. I get that only someone with immense power could break our barrier, and that would draw attention anyway, so the whole thing is useless to a spy. Satisfied that she'd grasped the concept, Gaius smiled and asked why she wouldn't share her theory on innate magic, on imprinted magic, with him. That's because, Gaius, my theory sounds strange, and if I reveal everything I know, it could get me into trouble again. But I can give you the gist. I believe innate magic doesn't awaken randomly. Instead, it requires a trigger, and that trigger is random. Rune's gaze flicked to the academy's headmaster. She saw no outward sign he'd overheard them, but she was wrong. Nialan could barely suppress his surprise. It was more than a radical idea. If there really was a random trigger that awakened someone's innate magic, it could explain everything. Yet if the trigger were truly random, it might be impossible to learn how to reliably awaken innate magic. Nialan wondered how the daughter of his old friends had hit upon such a brilliant theory. How did she arrive at this idea? Could it be related to her own innate magic? He puzzled. Because I can't even sense her magic's nature, not at all. I should be able to with my own imprinted magic, but I can't. Why is her magic so blank to me? And there are at least 3 people here whose magic I can't feel. It's bizarre. Nialan's thoughts swirled in confusion and curiosity. He knew eavesdropping on the daughter of the Blackstone family was wrong, yet his instincts told him something fundamental was off about her. She had signed in as Silverstar, not Silverstar Blackstone, as though she were concealing her true name. He realized he needed to reconnect with his old friends the Blackstones. They were his family once, and he'd missed something important. Rune, meanwhile, realized he was staring and turned away shyly. She sensed his attention lingering on her and grew self-conscious. Nialan almost withdrew his senses, but a flicker of premonition held him in place. She would bring great change to their world. He'd never felt such a powerful foreboding. Am I imagining things, or is my magic trying to tell me that Rune can change this world? He wondered. If that's true, she still has a long way to go. With that thought, he returned to his duties, mind buzzing with possibilities. Somehow I get the impression that there's something off about Rune. I wonder why she introduced herself as Rune Silverstar instead of using her full title. That can't be a coincidence. I'm curious whether it has anything to do with her relationship with her parents. I've never heard of Rune Blackstone before. I wonder why my friends Maria and Sebastian Blackstone never mentioned their daughter to me. I have a really bad feeling about this, Nialan thought uneasily. Their eyes met briefly. Rune studied the director for a moment, then turned back to her meal as if she were hiding something. The intensity of his gaze made her skin prickle. Why is he staring at me like that? Could he be trying to discern the nature of my innate magic? He should have one too. I wonder what his innate power actually is, Rune thought, stealing a quick look at Nialan. In the next instant, her vision flickered and her attempt to analyze the director's magic failed. Thank goodness my regeneration is so much faster now, thanks to all the magic I've copied. At least I can recover from whatever damage my eyes take when I look at someone so far above me on the magical hierarchy. Now that I think about it, why isn't there a clear ranking system or any quantifiable way to measure magical strength? Sure, There might be a list of the world's strongest mages, but there ought to be a universal system for magic. Level 1, Level 2, Rank 1, Rank 2, something like that, Rune thought as she watched the last of the food disappear. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the grand hall, addressing all the new arrivals at the Intermagic's Academy of Magical Arts. And now, one final word on how things will proceed. You will soon be divided into groups. These groups will become your roommates for the next several years, but I want to address something else first. I trust you will treat one another fairly and respectfully, regardless of your species, human or mythological being. It matters not where you come from. As long as you are willing to learn and improve, your teachers will be ready to support you. On to another important topic. We must stand together in the coming days. Our world will grow chaotic in the weeks and months ahead, and the mythological realm may soon be revealed. I will not sugarcoat this, it will be tumultuous. I hope you will band together to weather what comes. I'm not a natural orator, so I'll keep this brief. We must unite, and if anyone threatens any magical family, human or mythological, we will work together to survive these turbulent times. I believe we stand on the threshold of a new era, the era of revelation. After a few seconds of silence, Nealon snapped his fingers. Above every student's head, a number appeared, 100 numbers, reaching into the hundreds. A second snap, and each newcomer found themselves standing next to others bearing the same number above their heads. That should be self-explanatory, the director said. Those with the same number are your roommates. Enjoy settling in. Classes begin in 3 days, so you'll have time to design your schedules. You'll discover how it works quickly. It's fairly intuitive. Once you finalize your schedule, be certain, you won't be allowed to change it until midterm exams, at which point most of you may be expelled. That's all for today, goodbye. And with that, Nealon rose and departed without another word. As the director's figure dissolved into an unnatural shadow that seemed to follow him as he walked away, the hall fell silent in a charged anticipation. It was clear this academy would demand much of its students. Rune looked around her group and spotted the pale boy with blue eyes and black hair. He appeared disheveled and nervous. Hey there, Rune said, leaning forward. What's your name? You look a little uncomfortable. Are you okay, or maybe you're not feeling well? The boy flinched when their eyes met and answered haltingly. My name is Nathan Godfield, and no, I'm not sick. I just don't usually talk to people much. I'm Rune Silverstar, she introduced herself with a warm smile. I'm here to learn the fundamentals of magic. What brought you here, Nathan? Nathan glanced at her thoughtfully before admitting, it was my parents. They wanted me to become something, anything, so I wouldn't be useless. As Rune studied him more closely, she noticed faint scars and signs of malnutrition. Compassion stirred in her chest, and for a moment she faltered. Though this might be one of her riskier moves, it struck her as the right path if he, like her, had suffered a harsh childhood. Wow. I never knew there was still something good in me, she mused. Just because this boy is undernourished and traumatized, do I really want to explain to him what his innate magic is? If anyone discovers I can perceive the trigger for awakening innate magic, and on top of that can copy magic, I'm utterly doomed. But maybe I can hint indirectly, or lead him to discover his trigger on his own, so there's no direct link to me. That could keep me safe. Rune's eyes met his again, and almost at once she realized Gaius was no longer by her side, only logical, since he'd teleport around the hall. She wondered how she would find her dorm now. She glanced up and saw the number 230 floating above her head, then back down at Nathan, who bore the same number. The digits flickered gently in the air. So, Nathan, if you ever need help, I'm here for you, Rune offered. You seem like a good person, and I don't think you're useless. Anyone who says otherwise is an idiot. And hey, I know someone else with your last name. Does the Godfield family really have branches everywhere, or, how does that work? She turned to the rest of the group. She didn't mind sharing a suite with 2 boys and 3 girls. Does anyone know how this works, how we set up our schedules and find our rooms? Blonde-haired boy spoke up. It's simple. My older brother graduated here, and he said we just walk through the halls, and the palace will guide us to our room. The corridors shift so you end up where you belong. You just have to think about where you want to go, and the path will rearrange itself. I know it sounds weird, but somehow it works. That's phenomenon magic, according to my brother. With no reason to doubt him, Rune followed. Sure enough, The corridors creaked and shifted around them, and moments later she stood before the door that would be her home for years to come. The door was carved from white wood in an intricate pattern that seemed grown rather than carved. Golden honeycomb motifs glowed against the white grain as if part of the living wood. When Rune pushed the door open, she gasped at the spaciousness of their suite. It was classified, small, which only highlighted how lavish magic made everything. The first room she entered combined a living area with a kitchen, and already felt larger than many apartments she'd known. There was a chill-out corner with beanbags, several sofas piled with cushions, and even a hot tub in one corner. A fountain bubbled in the center of the room. The ceiling was a domed concave of living mosaic. Millions of precious minerals, crystals, gold, diamonds, and gemstones formed a dazzling pattern that seemed alive. Branching off the living room were individual bedrooms for each person. When Rune stepped into one, the nameplate by the door changed to read, Rune Silverstar Blackstone. Oh, shit, I wasn't ready for my full identity to show up, Rune thought, hurriedly removing the plaque and declaring, I'll take this room. Her own room was just as grand. A 4-poster bed too big for one person, a private bath, a built-in spa next to a bathtub, luxuries she was unaccustomed to but very much welcomed. As Rune surveyed her room, her gaze fell on a desk with pens and papers neatly arranged. One sheet was titled, Schedule, and others contained basic information about school procedures. But Rune decided she'd look at those later. She had more important and interesting things to do right now than fuss over her timetable. She needed to talk to her new roommates first. Boom went the zipper on her coat as she pulled out bag after bag. The small, brown pouches were covered in a fine lattice of purple runes, more than just spatial artifacts with near-infinite capacity. They also nullified weight, solving the biggest problem of carrying so many magical storage items. Alright, now I just need to remember which pouch holds what, and then I'll figure out how to organize everything, Rune thought, pausing when she heard footsteps at her door and a gentle knock. May I come in? I thought I might help you decorate your room, if you like. I have an innate magic that could assist, said Mia, an elf, as Rune opened the door for her. Rune paused to admire how practical Mia's rune-binding magic was. But she also noticed its limits when Mia explained, her power only worked within a closed space and only on harmless objects. It couldn't create life, and if the chamber was breached from outside, the effect ended immediately. When Rune saw the young elf's radiant smile, she was struck by how beautiful May was. For a moment, Rune felt that May embodied the complete opposite of herself, kind, selfless, graceful, and elegant. Rune could not imagine ever helping others purely out of goodwill. Thank you, that's really kind of you. But why are you so willing to help me? You hardly know me, and I'm a vampire while you're an elf. Aren't you a little afraid I might attack you like in the old legends? Rune asked, her tone lightly ironic as she watched May move about the room, gesturing gently with her hands. I can't fully explain it, May replied earnestly, but I just feel it's good to help others. It comforts me to see others happy. The smile on someone's lips, that's what I want to see. Bringing joy to the world is the most important thing, I think. Well, I guess I'm not a good person then, Rune thought. I'd never help someone without getting something in return. As time passed, the room seemed to waver, as though heat waves rippled across the walls, floor, and furniture. I'm ready now. How would you like your room arranged? I can do almost anything, as I mentioned before, but expanding it beyond 100 cubic meters is difficult. I could roughly double its size, but then my magic would dissipate and the room would revert to its original state. May said. If it doesn't cost you anything and you can do it that easily, I'd like it a bit larger, with more cabinets over there, one next to the wardrobe, and I'd also like a room for my books and another for my magic and technology research. Some kind of lab, I guess. Rune said. She watched as the space warped and shifted around her, and moments later, just as she had envisioned, the room had transformed. Rune was astonished by the level of detail and how perfectly the changes matched her wishes. She had to ask how it was possible. That's actually quite simple, May explained, sounding a little nervous. As an elf, I've always had a strong connection to the dream realm, imaginations and wishes. I took your instructions as a base and focused the rest of my magic on fulfilling your desires. I don't need to know every detail of what you want, just the broad strokes are enough. Then I let the magic handle the rest. I really can't explain it any better. Rune found it amusing that someone so altruistic could also be shy like herself. She thanked May in the polite manner customarily expected of roommates. A brief hush fell between them as Rune considered how to proceed. In her eyes, May, with her short blonde hair, green eyes, and slightly sturdy build, was not the quintessential elven beauty, but her selflessness was a major plus. Still, Rune worried they were polar opposites, and wondered how she'd fit into this group of roommates. Rune doubted she would ever be someone anyone could rely on in a dangerous situation. She knew that if lives were at stake and she had to choose between saving herself or others, she would run away. And even if others could be saved alongside her through cooperation, she would likely risk herself only for Gaius, no one else. The thought that she might refuse to save a child, woman, or man struck her as deeply unnatural. You look thoughtful, Rune. What are you thinking about? Maybe I can help. Would you like my advice? May asked, tilting her sweet head and letting her pointed ears wiggle. Rune couldn't help picturing a tiny hamster wagging its tail. No, I'm fine. It's just, I'm unsure how I'll fit in with our roommates. You and I are so different, and honestly, I'm worried about interacting with people. I doubt I'm someone anyone can rely on. Not that you misunderstand me. During normal academic activities you can depend on me, but if something dangerous happens, you shouldn't count on me to stay safe. I know it sounds radical, but I'm not a good person like you are. Rune said plainly, her usual emotionless tone settling over her words. May saw how Rune was talking herself down and decided to encourage her. Having difficulty understanding emotions doesn't make you a bad person. You can still do good things. Rune only smiled and replied, You're wrong. I mean exactly what I say. I'm not a good person. Not because I lack confidence. I know myself well and I like myself. I'm maybe arrogant and self-absorbed, but I can tell you honestly I'm not good. If I have to choose who to save, me or you, in an emergency where I can only save one, I'll always save myself. Not solely because I just met you, but because I consider my own life more important and I have very little empathy. Since my parents neglected me and I fell into deep depression, I've been severely lacking in empathy. I can understand feelings, but I don't share them. I'm selfish, avaricious, perhaps lustful, above all curious and ruthless. I appreciate your offer to help, but this isn't a philosophical debate. These are facts about me. I understand if you don't want to be my friend, because I'm weird. I rarely have friends. Rune said this earnestly as she moved toward her door, and May followed her back into the living area. Before leaving, Rune glanced back and used a black marker to cross out Blackstone from her nameplate. The name carried too many painful memories. Why are you crossing out your second surname? I saw your nameplate earlier, and actually it's interesting to have two noble names, even if you don't know much about those houses. Sorry if I'm uninformed. The other boy said. Rune couldn't recall his name. Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag. My full name is Rune Sylvester Blackstone, and I'd prefer none of you to broadcast it. I have no desire to speak with my parents. I plan to forgive them maybe next weekend, but until then, I'd appreciate it if you kept my name quiet. My history with the Blackstones is complicated, and I'm still working on forgiving what happened. I'm not keen to discuss it now, so let's just bury it and maybe talk in a few months, or weeks. But not now. Rune said firmly.
Thank you for watching. That is it for today. If you liked my story, then leave a like and an abo da, and don't forget to recommend my YouTube channel to your friends. Now you can click on the left right side of the screen and go to the next video I uploaded. In the right corner of the screen you can now see the link to the playlist. And until next time, take care, goodbye.